Hello and welcome everyone. And thank you so much for joining our webinar today. I hope you are staying safe and doing well despite its pandemic complexities. My name is Nhật Anh. I am one of the coordinators of the third Mekong TESOL International Conference, and I'm the MC for today's webinar. Right, our webinar series will take place within 4 months from August to December 2021, with 2 or 3 webinars each month. Our webinars are scheduled on Friday from 10 to 11 a.m. on weekly basis. Before meeting our presenter, please allow me to go through some housekeeping rules. To guarantee the sound quality, the participant audio is automatically disabled. So if you need technical support from us, please use the raise hand button. And if you wish to interact or have questions for our presenter, please use the chat box or the Q&A button that can be found in your control panel. Our presenter will be happy to answer your questions in the Q&A section after this presentation. Also, a link to the feedback form for this webinar will be sent to you after this webinar finishes. So by completing the form, your feedback and attendance will be recorded, and we are delighted to send the webinar's handouts and a link to the recording of this webinar to you within 3 days as a thank you gift. Now, please allow me to introduce our presenter of today, Mr. Pham Van Khanh. He is an EFL lecturer at undergraduate level in Vietnam. And currently, he is working for the Faculty of Foreign Languages at Ho Chi Minh City University of Technology and Education. He holds his MA in TESOL at University of Southern Queensland, Australia. And his research interests include translation and interpreting teaching, learner autonomy, and curriculum development. Now, please welcome Mr. Pham Van Khanh. Mr. Pham Van Khanh, it's your turn. Please turn on the mic.
Yeah, I muted myself now. Good morning, everyone. It's my great pleasure for me to be here today to be a presenter of our webinar today. And first of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Pham Van Khanh, and as you have heard from Ms. Anh, then I come from the University of Technology and Education. And today I would like to start my presentation. This is the findings that I did on my research in my class of IT translation previously in the last semester. But before getting started, can I see your number one if you are listening to me? Good morning, good morning. How are you? Hope that you are doing great. All right, I see Ms. Thư Võ, Bảo Ngân, yeah, Hoàng Luân, yeah, a lot of number one. Very nice. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. A lot of number ones over here. All right, so that is all what I expect today. Okay, Mr. Khan, number one. That's my pleasure. Thank you so much. Okay, so you look great today. Yeah, thank you so much, Miss. I don't know whether you are Miss or Mr. Minh Thư Lạc. Okay, Phước Thiện Lê. Okay, so a lot of participants today. I'm so happy. Okay, so let me ask you one question before getting started about translation, your experience in translation. All right, so is there any teacher teaching translation currently? If yes, you just say one, type in one in a chat box, then I can see you. Thành Tâm Võ. All right. Okay, I could see some teachers that are teaching translation as me now. All right, just several. Okay, but that is a very positive side. Okay, yeah. What are the others, right? So the second question I want to ask you. So what was your experience with translation learning previously if you don't teach translation? How did you feel when you studied translation in your college previously? Oh, no responses here? Cannot understand what I translated. All right. Mhm. Just one answer from Ms. Kim. Well, thank you so much for your quite boring. Yeah. As a student, then you felt that that was a little bit boring to you, kind of difficult, because Vietnamese words have so many meanings. Yeah, difficult, quite boring. Yeah. Okay. So a lot of similar answers. So we have two categories over here. Yeah, one more: confusing, challenging, interesting, difficult. Okay. So as I could see here, a majority of the participants raised the answer of boring. That is the first one, and difficult. That is the second one. Maybe bored. Yeah. Okay, many slangs or some things like that. All right. So today my topic is all about a project in which we will find it interesting to students, to the students, at least in my classroom. I mean, previously in the last semester, I dealt with a group of approximately 20 students studying IT translation. Yeah, and my topic today is all about a project that I did in my class to enhance their motivation and to enhance their love for translation. Okay, so I'm gonna start by presenting you via the PowerPoint here, the findings, the things related to the project that I did. So we'll go through several parts in my presentation: introduction, literature review, and methodology, findings, and last is the discussion and teaching implications. I think this is the most significant part of the webinar today. Okay, so let's get started. So as you answered in the chat box, translation is kind of boring to the students. So that's why I wonder myself, how could I enhance the students' motivation for this? So I choose this project. So among different approaches, among different activities to teach translation, you see within multiple lingual societies, translation is obvious act of communication, and it is a very useful skill, not just for professional translators or interpreters, but also for academic community. All right, so that is according to Serega. And I chose project-based learning because it in translation, because it provides students with the chance of translating authentic and realistic things in their life. I mean, so that is what Lammer and Merchant Dollar in 2010 stated. And the effectiveness of project-based learning in teaching business translation in Asia was reported. saying that the students perceive positive that they perceive the project in one study by Lee and Zanfi in 2015 very positively, and another study by Huang in 2012 saying that the students' motivation and attitude satisfaction and self-achievement have been found to increase significantly in their study. So the research gap here, although there have been investigation on project-based learning in translation, teaching and learning, but just little has been done in the field of IT translation. Actually, I was a newbie in this field, so I just try to ask the question to myself to help the students raise their interest. So this is the research gap, and the research questions in my research were how do the students perceive the collaborative video making and subtitle translating project in the course of IT translation? And the second question is, what are the benefits and problems the students can have in the project? And how does social media platform affect students' project? So we'll come to translation studies. So as we all know, translation is a craft consisting in the attempt to replace a written message or statement in one language by the same message or statement in another language. That is by Newman in 1981. And translation and interpretation, we can deny the role of these, right? So they play an indisputable role in globalization and internationalization and intercultural contact in the 21st century. So there are some characteristics that any good translator should have. So the first one is reading comprehension ability in a foreign language. Without comprehension, then that translator can do anything. So the second thing is the knowledge of the subject, sensitive to language, both mother tongue and foreign language. That is the third one. And let's just come to the last one, that is the competence to write the target language dexterously, clearly, economically, and resourcefully. So based on these good critical characteristics that a good translator should have, so the teacher should notice that they should be, that somehow the same or similar, as much as possible to be a good teacher in translation and interpretation. So why do I choose project-based learning? So I think that we are all very familiar with this, because project-based learning is a very comprehensive aspect, emphasizing on teaching by getting the students involved in the investigation. So as you stated in the chat box, that the students are very bored with their translation in general, and they find that very difficult to study this. So project-based learning can solve this significantly. So when taking the project, the students have to give out their solutions to the problems by questioning, debating, giving out the predictions, planning the things that they have to do in the project, experimenting, gathering and analyzing the data that they have applied and they have experimented in their project. Then they will draw some conclusions, compromising and sharing the findings with their peers in the group. So there are a lot of tasks for the students to do then. So project-based learning in translation. So here we have project-based learning is school-like but not realistic. But it's not school-like, but realistic. So it gives the learners the sense of authenticity regarding the topics or the task or the student roles, the context, companions, and so on, right? And there are several factors that affect students' motivation. So in project-based learning, the first factor is the students' perceptions toward the value of the project. They perceive it positively, they evaluate that, they appreciate that highly or not. So that really the key. That is really the key to the success of the project, and their own competence in accomplishing it, and the true meaning of learning, but not the grades. So grades are very important to the students, but actually through our project-based learning, then the students can freely express themselves there and explore who they are in the project-based learning. So there are several things that the teacher should do to have a project-based learning class, how can I say, which is successful. So to inspire the students, the teacher ought to create learning opportunities by accommodating students with adequate information resources. So here, I mean, when the students have a lack of information or instruction, maybe, then they cannot follow what the teachers ask them to do. And the second thing is enhance learning by scaffolding guidance on more physical work. Okay, so once again, the guidance, the instructions are very important from the teacher. And the next thing is to get the students interested in use metacognition in learning, supervise progress, diagnose issues, and give comments and evaluation timely. I mean, in this case, we have to call it timely because the student need the teacher support during the time that they do the project. Subtitling is a very familiar thing for us today, right? Because most of us are watching YouTube, watching videos on internet. So that is what we call the text under the videos or the films, maybe, or the news on TV. So this will help the viewers to understand the context without the difficulty of understanding the foreign language. So they can see the translation there. So the translation for film titles, film subtitles, a very distinctive and interesting process that cannot be seen in other translation work. So since a great number of viewers still rely on subtitles, enjoying the film frame by frame subtitle is very meaningful in helping them to keeping up with the film content easily. So that is according to Matsumoto in 2003. So I chose the collaborative video making because the combination of technology and pedagogy potentially makes the class experience joyful and memorable and motivating for both teachers and learners. Another reason is that students can be challenged in an intellectual way when working on a task integrating technology tools, because they are so, I mean, I must say that they are overwhelmed by technology these days. So video making with their mate is a great project. So I decided that. So in research design, I would like to choose the two methods. I mean, I would like to incorporate the two methods, quantitative data collection before quality collection. This is called a mixed method research design. So the qualitative data collection was the source of data to explain, I mean, to elaborate the result, the finding of the quantitative data. So the research participants in my research were the students from the Faculty of Foreign Languages at the Ho Chi Minh City University of Technology and Education. So 18 third-year students majoring in translation and interpretation, and the levels of computer competency. So they self-rated from mostly moderate to rarely excellent. So several of them were reported to be really excellent, and some of them, interestingly, are taking the second major in IT. So the ages of the students were from 20 to 21, and previously they completed the course of translation theories, so they have the basics in taking this subject. Well, now let's just come to the next part. That is the research procedure that I designed in my class. So here, I started my project in the week number 9 to week number 14 in the whole semester of 15 weeks. From week number 1 and week number 8, they have exercises. They have some notices from me. They practice with their friends, with the groups. Then they have the necessary confidence in taking up the project. So that's why I just require them to take up the project in the week number 9. So that is the reason. So in week number 9, we have orientation and grouping. So instructions, requirements, so everything about assessment, evaluation, and grouping. So happen in this week. And right after that, then they form their group and they give their first translation. So after their first translation, they will submit it in the week 11, and the second translation was submitted in the 12th week. Why do we have the first translation and second translation submission? Because the first translation were just the very were the first attempt in choosing the topics, choosing the text, and translate it with their peers for their first categories of scoring. So which was accounted for 50% in their project. And after the first translation, I gave them some feedback. I responded to them regarding some highlights that I marked on the paper, and they received it. And together with their friends, they produced the second translation. So the second translation was based on the first translation to to add it or to make it more refined. The most refined as they could in their. They will make a final video submission and get their project publishing. So based on with their finals, with their second translation submission, they have the source for the subtitle in the video that they are going to make in the week 13. So together with their friends, they would make a video of news. That they will role play as the new presenter to present to present the news that they collected in their video, and they try to subtitle that in the video, and then they embedded the subtitle of the translation of the original text in the video. So they were really excitedly participating in the video role play with their with their peers. So, and after that, in the week 14, I give them their final feedback and also the scores for that. So as you can see here, the percentage of scoring for the first translation, 50. For second translation, 20%, because after the drafting, then there was nothing much to deal with the second translation, and the video making 20%. And lastly, I asked them to publish their video on social media to get like, share, comments. So everybody was really excited. So there were some findings regarding the project. So first, let's just talk about the students' perception prior to the project, before the project. So they got some presumption. So as I asked them, you thought it would be very challenging to make the video and add in the subtitles. Then you see as the mean here is 2.77. It was really surprising to me that they didn't consider this as a very challenging one. You will know the reason like after this part in the discussion, I will tell you. And they are not quite afraid of not being able to make a good video of news due to their low tech skills. And they thought that they would definitely successful in completing the task as a group. So this is the highest mean score in this category. So they have the strong belief that they could take the video project. So I conducted it with ease. But there was the thing that I was afraid, a little bit afraid, that they reported that they were not really fascinated. That some of them were not really fascinated about showing the work to the public on Facebook as I required them. So I'll tell you something about this later on in the discussion. And the students' perception after the project. So overall, they thought that this project learning activity is really applicable in translation, teaching, and learning. And they felt excited about combining translation with the making of a video and subtitle the things there in the video. And basically, we have a very common project that the translation teachers usually do in their class. That is paper translation as a magazine or posters or something. So this is a new kind of project for them to do. Like they say that it is more interesting to make a video and act in it than just only translating a subtitle of an available video, or just translate the things in the poster or in the magazines or something. So the role of the teachers were really highly appreciated by the students. So generally, they were really satisfied with the support, and they by receiving adequate feedback from the teacher on the work and understanding what the teacher highlighted and commented on the paper. So there are some benefits, right, that the students could gain from the project. So they could enhance their research ability, because to to search for the materials, to search for the news to include in their translation and in the video, they had to do a lot of extensive research. So they reported that their research ability highly increased. And they have widened their knowledge about many other fields related to IT when doing research on the chosen topics for translation. IT was not the thing that they mainly focused on, but for example, they got to know something about the applications in the field of IT, for example, and they read a lot of things about that. They reported to me, and they could increase their vocabulary in the field. This is the most significant benefit that they gain from the project. And also they could improve and develop their tech skills better. So some of the students reported to me that they were not really confident in using their tech skill because they are really low. I mean that they are a very low level at tech skill, but then they try. So we will have a discussion later on about the significant things in the project. So some more benefits for the students. So translation enhancement. So as you can see here in the item 20, 4.55, that is the mean score of the result. So they could make translation better than usual thanks to the group members cross-check and feedback. So in the group, they can have more sense. I mean that they have more accuracy in checking up their project. And also they were more motivated, right, to focus on their work to give out the best version of translation when having to make a video and publicizing it. So there was a thing that I told you that I shared with you that I asked you to publicize their product as a video on Facebook, and they will have to get more interactions, comments, and feedbacks from the audience. So this was a motivation to them. And they reported that surely that they successfully applied the previous translation techniques again through the weeks 2 to week 9 into their project. So there are several more benefits for the students here. Teamwork skills were found to increase significantly. And also they could learn and apply problem-solving skills successfully when they deal with the members in the group. And also they could improve their time management skill better. So regarding learning motivation overall, so everybody reported that they felt excited about the project. So the mean score here is quite high. They felt by the proof that they felt free to decide on their translation topics, and then they have some consultation with me later on the topics that they chose. So they were independent of the teacher, and they found video making really interesting, especially when gathering news, acting, and translating the subtitles in the video. And also they felt really excited about publicizing on Facebook as the result of their hard work. So after all, so the students felt this project make them more motivated to learn the subject of the IT translation. So this is a core, I mean, the key thing that I really aim at, increasing the students' motivation in learning translation. So the last part, that is for discussion and teaching implementations. So, you know, as we can see, I conducted a qualitative process in my research. That was an interview with the members in different groups to get more, I mean, that deeper perspectives on their belief and on their thinking about the project. And as we can see from the questionnaires and the interview, we can see the students' strong belief in the success of their projects. So most of them felt that it was a challenge to them, but it was a new, how can I say, a new thing for them to take up in their translation. Some of the students talked to me that they had never thought about such a fantastic project beyond their imagination like this, because they just thought of some very traditional projects like paper translation or some other task in the class. However, there were some students with some little anxiety when taking up this regarding their tech skills, but everything was fine. Okay, so I'll tell you some more things about this. In the research, in the project, so there are several things that the teacher should notice. So there was a thing that I couldn't do successfully. That was all about the application and software of making the video and embedding subtitles needed in the orientation meeting. I really didn't do well in this because I was not really a really good, how can I say, high qualified in this. So this is a very important thing for the teachers if they want to do the project. And luckily the students were really smart, and they did a lot of research, and some had some experiences already, so they could take the project very successfully with their tech skill. And there are some demonstrations from the teacher. I mean, this should be from the teacher to demonstrate how the teacher conduct the project. And also we can make use of, take advantage of the students' experience or assistant. I mean, those students in the class, some of them are very high tech, and we can take advantage of their technology skill. So in the project, the teachers' assistant were really highly appreciated. The students told me that they were well informed of fair assessment, and they were really satisfied with how they were evaluated on their project. And the teachers' feedback making students more confident in their translation were really valuable to them. So in my feedback, I just use some markers or some highlights to show them which part they should focus on to improve on their first translation for the better version in the second submission. So they understood that, and they felt it was really meaningful to them. And also the teacher was reported as a motivation for the students, because some of the students told me that, share with me that, oh, teacher, you are a very inspiring and empathetic teacher, because one of the group had an incident with their project, and in the very last minute, then they changed the direction of the project, and they asked me for permission. And yeah, it was like at the last minute, so I try to help them out, but not punish them or minus their scores, and they were very happy after all. So the social media platform I included in my project, that is publicizing the video on Facebook. So here is the key factor, and it caused some, a little pressure, and give the students some extrinsic motivation. Some of the students reported that they were, trying more and more to better their video, to better their translation version, to make the best of it, to publicize it, because they are under pressure of the watchers, of the viewers on Facebook. So they were constantly trying their best to make it. However, there were a side effect of social media on the student psychology that I would like to highlight here, because of the pressure from the audience of the Facebook user. So several students found it a little bit challenging and also stressful. I mean, to do that, to publicize their product on Facebook. So we have to take this into consideration to include the criterion creativity to balance the score. That is another suggestion from the interview. And also, I suggest you to conduct the internal vote and peer evaluation after all, to give them the sense of being fairly evaluated or being heard by the teacher, so they feel more satisfied. So I did this and they were really happy with this. And so we need to have some kind of intervention with the group work when necessary, because some of the students were really silent and resilient. So they didn't feel really confident in talking with the teachers, but with their group members. But some of the group members found it really difficult to work with each other because some of the members were from different classes. So this is also another problem. So intervention, timely prompt intervention with the group work is very necessary to help them. For example, some of the students reported that, oh well, that guy is really was really busy and a little bit lazy. They told me in the interview, and we didn't know how to deal with that. And at that time, some of the students felt really hopeless. I mean, to deal with the situation. And finally, their project result was not as their expectation. So here, once again, the role of the teacher is very important. So this is the last point that I would like to share with you. So before the project, I was really anxious. I mean, I want to talk about my fear. I was just afraid that the teacher, the students couldn't take it successfully because of their lack of tech skill as an element that I added in my project. But then finally the results were beyond my expectation, and the surprising outcomes were found in the project. And after all, the teacher, me as a researcher also, with the students' feedback, we were all really happy with the findings. So this is believed, that this is hope to ease the difficulties of teaching translations and to increase the students' motivation in learning this. So basically, this is the main aim of the research that I would like to do, and partly I could do that, and I'm really excited and happy with this. So thank you so much for your listening, and hope that you guys will have some questions or some contribution to the things that I have done in my class, and we will have some more discussion later on. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Khanh, for your very informative presentation. Now it is time for the Q&A section, so please feel free to send your questions in the Q&A box that can be found in your control panel. We got questions from the audience already, so Mr. Khanh, are you ready to answer these one?
Okay. Yes, I'm reading these.
All right.
So
Should
there
we
are several.
start with, okay. Should we
There are
start
several.
with the first question from Mr. Soyeri Chow? So in your opinion, how L1 affects on translation course?
I'm sorry, let me
Okay.
scroll it up, right?
Mm-hmm.
L1 effect on translation course. Yeah, I think this is a very serious problem that all of the teachers and the students have in the course. I mean that the students are struggling with their L1, their first language on the translation, because they will think in the way that, I mean that they will translate in the way that they will use L1. So in this case, I think that we should take some things into consideration. For example, the grammar or the style of translation in L2. How is it different from L1? And also, I mean, to solve this problem, then the teacher should, I mean, as I did in my class, I try to teach them some basic things before taking the class, like they some structures. For example, take this as one example, huh? I teach them the structure. In Vietnamese, we translate this structure in this way, but here in L2, then how can we translate it? Or also, and vice versa. So this is a very difficult issue and a very common one. It L1 affects heavily on the translation course. So there was a very interesting experience that I had with L1 effect on the translation course, that the students found it. I found some translation with the very Vietnamese style of translation. So this can be one of the things. So L1 effect was more. Oh, I cannot see the chat box.
You can click on the Q&A section.
Yeah, I can see now. I can see it now.
The second question from Ms. Yao is, what are very beginning motivation before the course starts you offer or introduce to your students?
Before the course starts, I think that there are several ways to motivate the students. Like we can show the students the previous work of, I mean, the projects that the student, that the past students did in the previous courses. So they will see how old students, how the old students handle the course. And also we can invite some expert. I mean, that some, you know, as I'm president, I mean that the president of the alumni community in my faculty. So the teachers in my faculty usually invite some alumni in the field to come to the, I mean, the very first session of the course to introduce the things to them, so they would see how they would be in the future and what they would be doing in the future. So this is also a great source to them to be motivated. And also we could create some very games, right? Some mini games before starting the course, like we for example, we shouldn't really heavily focus on the core content of the course first in the very beginning of the course, because this will make them scared maybe, and we try to make them feel ease with this. So we create some mini games for them. For example, like they will translate some very interesting proverbs in Vietnamese to English and from English to Vietnamese to find out some equivalence between the two languages, for example. And also, those are the three things that I could think of. Yeah, and if you have the experience in the field, you don't need alumni, right? So if you have the experience in the field, you can show them your work. If you have some experiences in translating the things, right? You show them their work. This is how I did, right? In my work out of the school. So they could see something realistic. And also I can think of we can take advantage of the intern students work. So as I could see in my internship course, I had several students having an intern in some translation institute. Then they included in the report, they had some pieces of translation from the company. And this is also before using these kind of pieces of translation in your class, showing to your students, then you can ask for permission from the company. So I think this can be something real to the students, so the students feel more excited. Yeah, so to me, the things to motivate the students is to make sense of realistics. And yeah, that's what I can share with you.
Thank you, Mr. Khanh. And we'll move to the question that I think a lot of participants will care to know about, which is based on your project, how do you apply your findings into online classes? Is there something different or not from the real classes?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is also a very interesting question that I could find here. So the video making of the whole group together is easier than making it online like this. So instead of doing this, I think that the students can make it online. Like we can switch it into a very common activity that we are doing now, like a webinar or a form of this online discussion, and they will record the things. They will act out there in the videos, and yeah, maybe, or they may individually, right? I mean, that individually make the video themselves at home, and one will be the technician of the group and gathering. That guy will gather the videos and compile everything to make a series of news there in the video. So those are the two things that I can think of. And also some much easier, I mean, that another easier project that I can do is to translate newspapers or magazines or posters or something. So that's what I did in the previous classes. But I found it a little bit boring. But if we include social media factor here in the scoring, so I think that can elevate the students' motivation a lot.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Khanh. Mr. Khanh, we have time for one more questions, and actually, this question is asked by two participants. So they care to know about what IT translation apps you can use to have the student translate, also how to estimate the student's translation?
So actually we have, so basically, right, a very common one, and as I usually suggested to my student, this is a very common one, that is Google Translation. Very basic one, because you know the improvement on the translation, the product is now getting better and better with Google Translation. But that is for just the very basic, I mean, for the very basic thing. But to be a professional in the field, then the students should get to know more about some very highly evaluated in the field, like let me, my mind is out of, I'm sorry, I'm out of my mind. TESOL, yes, TESOL, right? So let me type it here on the,
use the chat box.
yes, that's right. TESOL or TESOL, I'm sorry for my pronunciation. TESOL is a very common application that the students can do some research on, because and also we can introduce them right at the beginning as a motivation. So to add this, to refer back to the previous question, right? So TESOL or some other types of application in translation can be introduced to the students in the first, how can I say, in the first meeting of the class, to get them motivated. And also we can do some demonstrations with that, in order to let them know how it will be operated with TESOL, and some other similar applications that I'm now searching for and getting to know. So those are the two things. And also for checking mistakes or grammar or something like that, we can use some website. One of my favorite website that I use to check is Grammarly. If they have to translate from Vietnamese to English, into English, so they can use this to check their grammar and also their vocabulary use in their translation. And also another one with quillbot.com. I'm sorry if I made some mistake here, but I can remember that. So these are the two things that I usually use to check the grammar of the students. And also these two websites are very helpful, because they will suggest the students with some more versions of translation. I mean, some paraphrasing, so they can learn themselves to increase their vocabulary. And also they will suggest some grammar structure paraphrasing also. So I think that the students can self-study, and also it is useful for the teacher to mark the students' work as well.
Okay, thank you so much for Mr. Khan's answers, and it's time for wrap up. We so sorry that we don't have enough time to answer all of your questions, but I hope that it satisfies some of your burning wonders about translating and how to teach translation online. So we come to the end of our today's webinar, and I hope that you have enjoyed it and have your own take-home message. And the link to the feedback form will be sent to your email after this webinar. And please take notice that the links to the form will be accessible for only 48 hours, starting from the time it's sent to you. So we'll be really appreciated if you can submit the form within the allocated time. And the recording of this webinar will be published on our YouTube channel, Mekong TESOL, within 1 month from now. So make sure to check it out. But again, the recording will be first shared with the participants who complete the feedback form to us on time within 3 days. And don't forget to join us in our next webinar, will take place on Friday, September 10, 2021. And further information will be updated on our Facebook fan page at facebook.com/Mekong TESOL. And thank you so much for joining us today. And we will see you next time. Thank you, Mr. Khanh. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye, everyone.